in this tank for 15 years, maybe 18, maybe if you're prudent, you've got enough resources in there. You've taken risk in this tank. And now the thought process is to drain that tank to send your kid to college. So the tank is empty at the end with no more resources, and now you're going to start putting away money to compound interest for your own retirement years, which, again, we've killed compounding over that period. What if that was an opportunity, because you've put money into your 529, you've drained it, what if the government allowed you to put that money back, at least the amount that you took out to send your kid to college? Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Absolutely.
Well, it would, but it is not available. But with a life insurance contract, you have the capability to utilize that provision. See, you have access to the money. You've got the money just like you have in another type of account. The money is there, and now you've got two choices. One is to drain the tank, or two would be to borrow against it. One of the most powerful things about using a life insurance contract is you have the capability to borrow against it and put the money back. Wouldn't that be tremendous, that the money now, not only what you had in the account grows and continues to compound, tax-favored, tax-deferred, and tax-free if you understand how to take the money out of those policies. But then it gives you that capability, because most people, by the time they get their kids' college paid for, now they're zeroing in to focus on their own retirement. But what do they have to put the money in? Well, now they got to start over from scratch, and they've lost the interest that all of that money would be earning for them. So there's some great leverage here in learning how to pay for the college education without killing the goose that's laying the golden egg.
The life insurance policies are so powerful, and I love to talk with our clients that we've talked to when they were younger and started putting money into life insurance, but some of the families that are just now thinking about how they're going to pay for college, they just don't have access to that, and that's an awesome way to have access to their money.
I agree. I've done it in my own life with my own children, and the other thing I want you to catch is that it frees you up. I mean, if you have money to send your kids to college, when it comes time, so I'm putting money away for not only just college, but I have money to put away for my future and my retirement and everything. But what happens is the freedom that comes, it takes that burden off your shoulder. And if you're saving for your kids' college education and you're behind, you got to understand that that's pressure. So the life insurance contract really acts as a pressure release valve, if you will, that takes that pressure away. Because you have not only the death protection, the odds are you're not going to die, which is a tremendous thing, but the cash, now that you have access to capital, well, with strategy and planning, I'm sure that you help these clients figure out ways to maximize the use of their resources so that they're losing the least amount possible. And a life insurance contract does exactly that. It gives you access to money with your money still compounding interest, even though, yes, when you borrow money against your policy, you're paying interest to the carrier, but don't forget, your money is still compounding interest. And over time, that has a huge impact.
And the other impact when we think about college planning, which I've talked about a lot on the show, is which assets are going to have financial aid visibility or invisibility. And cash value in life insurance, if you have the same amount of money as cash value as part of a life insurance policy versus having it in a 529 plan, it's a huge impact because the 529 plan asset would be considered a parent asset for financial aid qualifications, but any cash value in a life insurance policy just isn't asked about. It's not something that's considered money that's available for college. Hey, Don,
money off the radar is very helpful. I've often heard this analogy. People talk about taxes and tax evasion. Well, there's a difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. It's about 5 years in the federal pen. The federal government says, by law, you have to pay all the taxes required and no more. Well, there are people who pay more taxes than they have to. Why? For lack of planning. And unfortunately, I would say that even more is done on the college side because of the lack of understanding. People spend more money than was necessary to send their kids to college because of improper planning. So sitting down with someone who's knowledgeable about the strategies and resources and how to position those to be the most effective can be well worth your client's time.
Absolutely. We see that every day, and it's gut-wrenching in my practice how many families are spending too much on college or just don't even realize the options that they have. Hey, Don, you hear radio show hosts and other people, your neighborhood, your people talking at your water fountain, talking about the fact that life insurance isn't a good choice because the fees are too high. What do you say to that advice?
Well, like everything has a fee and a cost. If I'm putting money in a managed account with mutual funds or stocks, that has a cost. Yeah, there's no free lunch. The key, though, is that with a life insurance contract, yes, there's internal cost. It costs the company. There's mortality cost. But with that provision, and I think our listeners would be wise to make sure they understand the difference between just life insurance versus a maximum efficient contract. The federal government set that limit, and they call anything over that amount, any contributions into a life insurance contract, a modified endowment contract. So at the best, the top of the table there, a life insurance contract performs at its maximum potential. You go over it, and now the federal government is going to start treating that life insurance contract like they do qualified plans, with all the rules, regulations, and penalties. So, there's expenses in your qualified plan in 401k. There's expenses to do everything. The issue, though, is what's the result? And, having that freedom by the time your kids go to college, to have your money in an account that in the event of your premature death, and I've never met anyone that dies on time, that's for sure. So it is unexpected. But to have that resource available in full, there is not one other account. There's not one other place you can put your money that guarantees that in the event of a death. So people go, well, I'm going to buy term insurance and invest my money. Well, you can do that, but that's still a cost. You have to calculate the time value of the money on the term premiums. So, I think people need to be careful about, well, this costs more than that. They all cost. The cost is going to be in anything you put your money in, but you got to remember what you're paying for. You're paying for an education for your children, and the key is what's going to be the most efficient way for me to get there. What's the return going to be? Well, that's very hard to measure. The problem is if you get to the place where it's time to send them to college and you're unprepared, well, that can have devastating effect, not only the parents, the relationship with their children, but their children's financial future as well because of just improper planning, which could have been changed.
Absolutely. I think it's really important for our listeners to understand that there are some life insurance policies that are not going to be the best policy that you're going to use to plan to save for college and also to save for your retirement.
That's correct. So if any life insurance policy will work. You have to have one that's custom designed, because there's a difference between just buying the mortality cost and then buying a life insurance contract that sole design is for accumulation in addition to the benefit.
Absolutely. Hey, Don, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to the listeners of my program, College Smart Radio. I truly appreciate your insights on this powerful financial tool that parents should consider in their overall financial plan.
Well, it was my pleasure, and I hope that you'll have me back sometime. It was great being with you.
Hey, thanks so much, Don. If any of you listeners are intrigued, and you should be, to learn more about whole life insurance and the type of policy that's going to fit into your college and retirement funding plan, give me a call at 650-587-1559 or drop me an email at College Smart Radio. Well, that wraps up another weekly show of College Smart Radio. We hope you picked up some new information today that helps you figure out ways to manage the runaway costs of college. You can hear us each week here on KDOW 1220 AM, Saturdays at 3 p.m. We promise to bring you up-to-date information from the front lines of helping parents deal with the most expensive years of their lives. For a link to a podcast of this show and our prior weekly shows, go to our website, www.collegesmartradio.com. In addition to the podcast, you'll also find a schedule of our upcoming shows. Plan to join us at one of our upcoming Westface College Planning workshops. Starting in January, we've also added monthly webinars to our schedule to help accommodate families that are not able to attend our live workshops. You can reserve your seat at a workshop, either live or via webinar, from the college website. From the show's website, www.collegesmartradio.com. This is Beatrice Schultz. Thanks for tuning into College Smart Radio. We look forward to sharing more helpful information next week.
You've been listening to College Smart Radio with certified financial planner Beatrice Schultz. If you have questions on today's topic, log on to collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1559. That's 650-587-1559. Join us next week at this time for another edition of College Smart Radio on AM 1220 KDOW.